I would say my most salient and pervasive identity on campus, well, more than one, is me being a woman and being a Black woman. I think that experience has been very interesting since I've been at SLU for 5 years, and how I'm perceived both from a professional point of view and also from students on campus. I wouldn't say that I've had a negative experience by any means. I would say that I've had some very small interactions that kind of speak to some challenges with interacting across difference, but I wouldn't say that there's something really astounding that has impacted my ability to navigate the campus successfully or have it inhibited in any way. How has the way in which campus targeted diversity changed since I've been at SLU? I don't know if I would say that there's been anything significant that has changed from my perspective. I think there's been an expansion of programs, some identity-based, such as like our Safe Zone Ally Training Program. But at a university level, I don't think there's anything specific that I can identify from someone that's worked in diversity and multicultural education for 4 years. I think there's worth more conversation about how we engage in topics of diversity and social justice on campus from an institutional level, because I feel like there are a lot of efforts in certain departments or by hosting certain programs, or if we have an event such like Atlas Week, which is being hosted now, but in terms of a clear determination or understanding of what the university's commitment is to diversity and what are the plans and actions to show that commitment through several ways. I don't know if that is necessarily here at this time. To expand upon what I said earlier, I feel like there are lots of individual programs and departments that promote diversity and social justice, things of that nature. But from an institutional level, I don't see a clear priority that is showing where the university is going, and that trickles down to know that at the end of the day, this is what our priority is, and this is how it's infiltrated in the different ways that our community is made. So, for example, probably the most common thing that we have is programs and services targeted to undergraduate students. What exists for graduate students and at what level? And I know that there are different colleges for graduate students, but those are questions. What exists for faculty and staff? What does engagement look like for us in terms of really thinking about the university priority, and how is it integrated to these different aspects of the university community? These are questions that I've thought about for a while, and I don't think it is as present as it could be in comparison to other institutions. But I do think that the programs that we have that target undergraduate students are good. We just need to do more, and it need to be expanded, I believe. People must first think about what you mean by diversity, because most people default to race, like race, probably white and Black, and don't really expand upon that. But diversity can mean a number of things demographically, but also in terms of ideology, things like that, faith. Specifically to demographics, you see the dynamics of undergraduate students, for example. Like, there are majority women that are in college here at SLU, and also nationwide it's usually like the 60 to 40 majority. There's an increased diversity of like Asian Pacific Islanders and East Asian, things like that. There's still underrepresentation for Latinos and African Americans, and a lot of that has to do with the affirmative action policies back in 2004, but I won't get into that. But if you think of that and then compare that to diversity in terms of the staff and faculty makeup, like most of the people in administration are largely men and they're mostly white. There is an imbalance of female faculty versus men faculty, and then the access to resources and positions of power and influence that are held by women and men, with the exception of some programs that are largely female heavy, like nursing, social work, for example. But if you think about engineering, political science, a lot of STEM fields, for example, business, there's a there's a disparity there. So there's things to consider in terms of, one, what we mean by diversity, and one, how that looks like in different ways and how that impacts one's experience. If you think about students trying to have an informed experience, and people that are largely teaching their classes are people that look or don't look like them, that's going to really inform their understanding of things consciously and subconsciously. And the perspectives that people bring in, both with their theoretical and academic knowledge that they're bringing in, and in terms of their own personal experiences, do influence the interactions they have with other people. So that's something that I don't think people think too much about in terms of what diversity means for campus and institution, because it's not just numbers, although numbers make schools look good if they are framed to be in a particular way, but it's really, what does this mean that we're having different people from different areas on campus? It really can infiltrate in a lot of different ways. A lot of people are unaware of the history of Jesuits and education, where they place themselves in terms of building educational institutions. And Jesuit institutions of higher education, their initial foundational framework was to place themselves in urban poor communities, so that the work by building these young minds and having this level of rigor can still be taken into the community to service community. So when the mission of our university is like, for the pursuit of truth, to the glory of God, to help humanity, I'm paraphrasing, but a lot of those phrases are sprinkled in there. This institution was built intentionally to place itself in an urban environment to support the community. In having SLU grow over the past 20 or something years, there have been very intentional decisions made in terms of its physical growth and how the campus is now placed that paint a certain message to the community. Because a lot of the land that the school is currently on used to be like low-income housing. There are buildings that exist on campus that used to be low-income housing apartments, schools, things like that. And so there was a very real reality of pushing people out and away from campus in some regards by buying up the land and rebuilding space to shape its and all that land with the cactus garden and all those random rocks over there with the pond and fish. It used to be a huge lot of low-income apartments that look similar to Grand Forest. A lot of people don't know that. I've seen old pictures from like the 70s, and it used to be just little apartments, and now it's like this beautiful community that is gated. But in having that change and having campus be beautified to this extent and to be expanded also impacts how the community perceives us and how people that are members of the SLU community perceive the greater St. Louis community. I would argue that some people that go here and work here don't really see SLU a part of Midtown. They see SLU as this anomaly that exists, and that Midtown is just this out there, with the exception of Central West End. But if you think about, like, you know, hearing things that don't go past the Fox, or this is Shady Shell or the Ghetto Snooks and all these idioms that exist, it paints a very real reality for how people in our community perceive things that are within a mile radius. And some of that is problematic. Talking about Occupy SLU, yeah, the parents that called, because I did a couple of hours of phone screenings, and then we had access to see the call log and descriptions of the intent of the calls during the Occupy Clock Tower reports, or whatever you want to call it. It was difficult. It was painful. Some stuff like personally offended me, and as well as my colleagues, in terms of perceptions of what the university should or should not be doing. Some people said some covert things, and some people said some outright offensive things, like, I don't believe these people should be on our campus, like, get them off our campus. So it's just really interesting to navigate and shield all those questions, and then be dealing with a lot of stuff personally about how I was feeling about things, like how I was feeling about students, you know, taking a stand and being activists, and what does that mean for them, and then just the point of where the community was at the time, like what was my role in that, how did I really feel about what was going on, and having to navigate that personally, and then to think about things on a professional level and how I approach myself in conversations I'm having with other students and leading conversations, dialogues or discussions really, and then talking informally with faculty and staff about it. It was just so much. I don't know if I can choose one emotion to label that moment, because in some ways I really felt like I was just in a survival mode. I really wasn't functioning at a place to where I could process a lot of that stuff that was going on, because I probably wouldn't be able to function at a good level and get my work done. So a lot of stuff was very triggering, and I was worried about the students and their involvement. I was worried about, holistically, anybody that was involved. I was worried about what's going on in Ferguson and protesting, and what is my role in that. So, and then how do I navigate this very divisive issue in a way that, I don't know, is productive or doesn't lead me to where I'm feeling like I'm compromising who I am and what I feel is right, I guess. So I think I'm still struggling with that. I've had some time to really work through it, but it's still not, I don't think I've had a conclusion about what that moment was like. I'm really interested in thinking more critically about diversity on our campus. I would say first and foremost, educate yourself on what you feel diversity means. Move beyond this notion that it just means race, and don't depend on people that are typically minoritized to educate you. You need to take ownership on educating yourself. There are TED Talks, books, there are tons of stuff out there, pretty substantial information that you can really use to inform your own self. So don't depend on those other people unless they're willing to have a genuine conversation with you. Continue awareness, and I think there needs to be a constant choice in working towards greater diversity and inclusion on campus. It just can't be this one-stop shop where you have this 1-hour program and then you're checked it off. Like, it's kind of this notion where there was this really good analogy by jesuit, who's this independent DJ in New York, and he said most people think race discourse, you have this one-stop shop. It's kind of like equivalent to getting your appendix removed, where you go into this training, you got your appendix removed, and you're like, you're super, I'm good for the day. When in reality, it's more hygienic in nature. You have to actually maintain it. You have to, like, you brush your teeth every day, you wash your face. If you don't, then it's going to build up, it's going to get nasty. So it takes active work in terms of educating yourself and working towards things to improve them. And it just takes a lot of energy, and it takes collective energy to do that. And it takes people being willing to be unfavorable in some means in order to advocate for things, and to be somewhat alone in getting things done, to be that one person that is being labeled the person that always worrying about such and such topic. But in order to be truly committed to that, you can't let that weigh you down in really working towards these issues, because it can turn you into a cynic, and that would really suck. So don't do that.